Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I kind of fancied talking about a Lloyd Cole album, kind of just because I think he's really underrated, both the stuff he done with his band The Commotions, as well as his solo work. So I thought that I would review one of his albums today and look at his second solo album called Don't Get Weird on Me Babe. So yes, in this video I will just be doing my usual thing, giving a bit of background information about the album, then showing you my vinyl copy, and then looking at each of the album songs in detail. So yeah, as I said, this was Lloyd Cole's second solo album, released on the 16th of September in 1991. After parting ways with The Commotions in the late 80s, Lloyd Cole had moved to New York to explore more adventurous styles of music. His solo debut was quite well received and did sell quite respectably. However, for this album, he kind of heightened his ambitions a little bit. He was teamed back up with producer Paul Hardiman, who had worked with Lloyd Cole throughout his days with The Commotions. He produced the classic Rattlesnakes. However, they had parted ways during the making of the follow-up album Easy Pieces. He also worked with former Commotions keyboard player Blair Cowan, who co-wrote most of the cuts on the first side. This album is very much a tale of two sides. The first side of this album was recorded live with an orchestra. The orchestration was arranged by a guy called Paul Buckmaster, who was a very much a acclaimed pop orchestrator. His previous credits had included David Bowie's Space Oddity, Elton John's Your Song, and Harry Nilsson's Without You. So a lot of very famous songs had been arranged by this guy. So now he was working with Lloyd Cole on this album. The string parts for this album were all recorded live at Capitol Studios in Hollywood, the super iconic studios there. Quite a costly sum of $60,000 back in 1991. Was quite a lot of money. The second side though is a perfect counterpoint. It's more upbeat, pop rock material. Interestingly enough, in America, the sides were flipped, putting the more rock-based songs on the first sides, maybe thinking the orchestration stuff was maybe a bit too out there for American audiences, or something but I personally prefer the flow of the album as it was originally released. Commercially, it didn't perform too great. It did chart though. It reached number 21 in the UK charts, so that is something. Done quite well in Sweden though, reaching number 7 there. However, these positions weren't quite as strong as the Commotions albums or even his solo debut, but was still overall a good commercial performance for it. So I will just now show you my vinyl copy of it. I don't believe I have actually shown this album on my channel before because it is a relatively new acquisition here. So there's a cover. I do quite like the cover for sure. There's the back of it there, just with all the track listing on it, and I think there's some credits and stuff at the bottom. Well, this one, I'm not sure if original copies came with the lines in a sleeve, but the person I got it from provided that, and then the original sleeve just has all of the track listing, who plays what on each song. No lyrics, unfortunately, which would be nice to have because I think Lloyd Cole does write some very interesting lyrics. However, that's just a minor criticism of the vinyl packaging. So anyway, I will now look at the album songs in detail. I will score each track out of 10, and then those scores will be used to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. So it begins with a song called Butterfly, which is a quite a dark, mysterious song to kick off the album with. It's got some very nice instrumentation on it. The string arrangement works really well. It's just a very quite a dark, brooding track, I think. I said, quite an interesting one to open the record with. But I think sets the mood up quite well for the rest of the first side. So yeah, Butterfly, really good song there, an 8 out of 10.
Summer came around, her old blanket on the floor.
The next knob I think is absolutely brilliant. It's called There For Her, which is a really lovely song. It kind of softens the mood a bit, like a lot more sort of calmer, like more sort of like easy listening, like this sort of song. Like through the sort of like through like the piano and like the harmonica playing, like just gives it like a really like nice like sort of calm mood to this track. Lyrically it is pretty good as well, about mourning the loss like of like a lover like you, like as like sort of like left like the singer. Like I mean, like I really like the chorus like orchestration, like the summer came around and I miss that woman more, like that wee bit like of the song. It just sounds really well. It just sounds like really well produced. Like Lloyd Cole sings it great. And like it's such a sort of like melodic track as well. It's one which I like really do rate highly. So like I'll give that one a 10 out of 10. Next up is slightly weaker, like in my opinion. It's called Margot's Waltz, which is a sort of like, again, another slower, softer track. I quite like the sort of like the subdued like organ playing like in it, as well as like the drum work like on like the song. Personally though, I'm not overly keen like on like the backing vocals, like they do sort of like get in the way like off like the song like a little bit. However, it is a very sort of like sophisticatedly like recorded track. Like I can certainly see this one like maybe like alienating a few like off like his like previous fans like from like the 80s, like simply just because it is like so like radically different. Like, but I like think the song like isn't bad. Like I mean, like it's not one of the best ones like on the album though. So I would give it a 7 out of 10 for that one. I don't need your loving, I don't need your kissing, I don't need. But then I absolutely love the next song, which is called Half of Everything, which is absolutely fantastic. I think this is like a sort of like a mini epic, this this song. It's just got very timeless production on it, like as does like most like of this album. And like I just love the way that this song develops and changes. However, it doesn't sort of seem that way. Like it doesn't seem like it goes like frantic like sort of like tempo changes. Like it doesn't seem like a song like where they've sort of like combined like lots of like little tracks. However, this song still has a sense of like movement and like progression like through it, which I like really like. And like yeah, like lyrically, like it's kind of like classic like Lloyd Cole territory, like about the breakup like of a relationship, and like how that they're sort of like splitting like their like belongings like between like the two like people like involved like in it. And like yeah, I just like love the song. Apparently as well, like the orchestration for like all the songs like on the first side like was recorded completely live. Like there was no overdubs like or like all like edits and that like taking place. That's really fantastic. Just shows like the absolute supreme skill like of like the session players that they had like working like on this, that like they could like perform like a very like intricate piece like such as this, like pretty much like all the way through like a sort of like a one-off performance. So yeah, like absolutely fantastic there. Half of Everything, one of my favourites on the album, definitely. Are you man enough to pray? And then we get another song which I'm maybe not as keen on like as some of the other ones. It's called Man Enough, which is a more sort of like accordion driven track. Reminds me a bit like off like the Commotion song, what's it like, Brand New Friends, like that one. I like kind of just like with like the like accordion like driving like the song along. It's a bit of a slow burner, this track. It might grow on me like a little bit. Starts off a little bit dull, like whoever like once the band like sort of gets into like the groove like off the song, like it does become like quite a nice like little number there. So yeah, 7 out of 10 for Man Enough. What he doesn't know. And then closing off the first side, we get a song called What He Doesn't Know, which I really like. I would give it an 8 out of 10 for this one. Again, another really well like orchestrated track. Again, like these arrangements like really make these songs a lot more interesting and like stand out, like compared to like if like they kind of just be performed like sort of like with like a standard like band like arrangement. Again, lyrically, it's about the downfall like of a relationship and like how like sort of like and like how like this like woman's like new boyfriend like sort of like won't like find out about like her past. It's just a pleasant song, really nice like acoustic guitar playing on it, like which like I would like single out like as being like really good there. So yeah, it closes off the first side rather well. Why don't you come down? Saw your pretty feet. And And then flipping over to side 2, we kick it up a notch a bit with like the rock side. It's not really rock, it's more sort of like the classic like Lloyd Cole and the Commotions like sort of sounds like which we get like on the second side. It starts off with a song called Tell Your Sister, which I think is a really great rocking song. It's got great guitar playing like in like the song. Maybe lyrically it is a tad repetitive, like that chorus line like kind of like repeats itself like a little bit too much. Like whether I think it opens up the second side really well. Like it's just got like a nice bridge to like the song, like just a nice structure, quite short but like really good. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for Tell Your Sister. And then we get probably my favourite song on the whole album. It was one of the singles and it's called Weeping Wine, which is amazing, this track here. It's a sort of very sort of 60s sounding track, but it's very sort of like birdsy and it's also like sort of like Beatlesy sound to it, like as well like stuff like Ticket to Ride and like If I Needed Someone, like that sort of like jangly like sort of like guitar sound. And I just think it's so good, this track. It's so melodic and a really great choice for the single. Unfortunately though, it didn't do well at all. I think it failed to chart pretty much like everywhere, which is a real shame because I think the song like is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, Weeping Wine would get a 10 out of 10.
Now the world's spinning round too fast, Lord, won't you let me...
The next up is called To the Lions, which is a more rocking track, this one here. Like this is one like which I would definitely say like kind of like rocks along really well. Louder guitars like on it. It still manages to be very melodic and like also very engaging, like from like a songwriting point of view, like as well. Like he's not sort of lost like that lyrical flair like which like we get like on which we get like on like the first side. Like he's still writing like really fantastic songs here. So yeah, To the Lions we'll get another 10 out of 10, like another faultless song I think.
Did you ever dream, baby, one day you might fall?
And the great tracks just keep coming with a song called Pay For It, which I absolutely love this song. Again, I love the rhythm of the track. I love the pacing like off like the song. I like how the low-key verses and that, like they're quite sort of slow and like subdued. Like, they just like set us up like for like the chorus line, like which goes, I think like was it like didn't you think that one day you would fall, like that bit. He just sort of like he shouts out that line and that line and that line and like it just really jumps out the speakers. The ending though I think is maybe a little bit dragged out. Like he does like this sort of scat singing like towards the end. I mean I quite like it like when I'm in the mood for that sort of thing, like when I'm getting like really into like this album. This is a song that definitely will stand out. Like whoever, like if I'm kind of like not really like into like this song and like this album, this is a song which probably like towards the end like would start to like annoy me like a little bit. However though, I do think it is still a really good song there though, so I would give Pay For It a 9 out of 10. And then the penultimate song is called The One You Never Had, which is a more sort of Lloyd Cole by numbers like sort of track. This really like it's very much like sort of like what we would expect like from him, like the sort of like the like acoustic guitars like in it, like they're all very sort of classic like Lloyd Cole. I mean it's just got like a nice tone, like especially like I think like there's some slide guitar like going on like in it as well. However, it just doesn't stand out like on the album too much. It's not bad at all. It's not one which I would ever skip over. However, it isn't like a highlight from the album either. So yeah, The One You Never Had would get a 7 out of 10 from me. And then to close off the album, we get probably one of Lloyd Cole's like more rocking tracks called She's a Girl and I'm a Man, which is a great way to finish the album. I love the great sort of like crunchy like Rolling Stones meets like sort of T-Rex like guitar riff like on it. Lyrically, it maybe sounds a bit today. Lyrically today it maybe sounds a little bit like outdated, like basically like about like a man like asserting like his like dominance like over like a partner, and like it suffers like from the same sort of problem like which is say a song like the Rolling Stones like Under My Thumb like maybe like suffers from like today. Like it's not the most like politically correct like lyrics like today. Like however, for me though, the killer riff, like the tune like off the song, like the bridge like where it's sort of like it goes down, does keep the track really really strong, and like I think works really well like as an album closer. Interestingly, this was one of the singles from the album, and again it didn't perform brilliantly, reached number 55 on the UK singles charts, and like it was the closest thing like to US success, like which Lloyd Cole like ever came to. Like I believe he performed the song on like the David Letterman chat show. So yeah, like it did get like a little bit like of exposure like over there. However, like not enough like for it to become like a big hit like or anything. But I think closes off the album really well. So yeah, we'll give it a 9 out of 10 for that one. Okay, so overall this album would score 87%, so I think this is a really great record. Certainly comes in like for a shout with being Lloyd Cole's strongest solo album, and I would say like in terms like of his whole career, it's probably like only second only to his debut Rattlesnakes with the Commotions. I think it just shows Lloyd Cole's versatility like as an artist. Like, he could work in like the sort of like the rock format, like kind of like 2 guitars, bass and drums, like that sort of thing, but also like sort of like has a great sort of like crooning voice like as well, and like make like really sort of like lushly orchestrated like pop songs like as shown like on the first side. And usually like in most cases I would kind of like a bit of variety like throughout the album, like maybe like a slower song and like then a rocker, like then a slower song. However, for me though, I think that this album is definitely a exception to that. I think grouping like the 2 distinct styles really works, because it kind of like it makes like the distinction between the two like sort of stand out like a lot more. And like if I think like they were sort of like intertwined like with each other, like it would kind of just sound a bit like they sort of like put this album like on like shuffle and like just like made up the track listing randomly. Like I think like it really works like having like the 2 distinct styles like separately. Like it works a little bit like say David Bowie's Low, like in like that regard. And definitely it was very underappreciated like at the time. I think it was probably like maybe about like half a decade like ahead like of its time, because this was when like sort of like the alternative music world was just all about grunge, and like Seattle, like Nirvana, like all like that was like the main like music like which like sort of like music fans and that like were really like into. However, like sort of like as like the 90s went on, like people's appreciation like for like sort of like well produced like orchestrated pop like such as say like Pet Sounds like by the Beach Boys, and like songwriters such as like Burt Bacharach and Scott Walker, like they like sort of like appreciation like of those artists really began to grow like probably about like 5 or 6 years like after this album like came out. Like so had it come out like maybe like towards at the end like of the 90s, might have got a bit more like attention, like whether like it is like quite hard to say. But as it is, I think it is a great album, like one like which is certainly ripe like for like rediscovery like in like the general like music community. So yeah, that's my review of Lloyd Cole's Don't Get Weird on Me Babe. So I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.